Hi yogis. Today we have a gentle prenatal class for you where we focus on releasing the hips. You don't have to be pregnant to do this video, but if you are, please note that with yoga, just like any other exercise, there are always risks, and I do encourage you to speak with your doctor first before you try this video or any other yoga videos. We should be okay for any trimester. We have a lot of props that we'll use today and some modifications for poses. But of course, if something doesn't feel right for you and your body or your pregnancy, stop the pose, take a child's pose, skip it, do whatever you need to stay comfortable and safe for you and your baby. So speaking of props, I have a handful of props to use today, but they are all items you could easily find around the house. So instead of yoga blocks, we're just using two little small pillows. If you don't have something this size, you could use books or boxes, anything to support our hands on and bring the ground just a little bit higher. You'll need some type of blanket or towel that you can fold up. And then we will need what's called a bolster in yoga. Bolsters are pretty expensive to buy on your own. So instead, we'll use a couch cushion. This is from the back of the couch right here. It'll work beautifully as a bolster, and I already own it, so I don't need to buy anything special. And I'm doing this with the props today to show you that yoga doesn't have to be expensive. You can do it at home with things that you already have and go from there. So we'll start off on our blankets. If you take a blanket, fold it up, sit it right underneath your sit bones or your hips. This will help prop you up in your easy seat, get you a little more supported. And then we'll take our pillows or blocks or boxes, whatever you have, and prop them underneath your knees to find some comfort here so you can really settle into our easy seat. So find whatever works for you. We'll scoot the other props out of our way. Get comfortable. Sit up tall and relax the face. You can close your eyes or soften your gaze. And we'll place our hands on the belly here, just coming back to our center. Take a few moments to find some peace and let go of anything from the work day, anything from your home life, any stressors or to-do lists. There's a lot going on in our lives right now, but the next few minutes are just for you and baby. So take a moment to feel grounded and centered and safe. Notice if you're holding tension in the face or the jaw, and relax those. And if you're holding tension in your shoulders and neck, try to soften those muscles and relax as well. And I like to open my yoga classes with 3 rounds of a deep cleansing breath where we breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And when we exhale, we really sigh it out. Release all the tension we're holding, things we didn't even know were in there and tight. So when you do this, for a lot of us, depending on how big your belly is, it may feel hard to take a large breath. There's just not much space anymore. So I invite you to take your hands to the sides of your ribs. And as we inhale in the next 3 breaths, we'll try to really expand to the sides and find a little bit more space so that we're not feeling so squished in the front. So hands to the sides. And we'll do our first round here. Let's all take a big inhale through the nose. And exhale through the mouth. Sigh it out. Second one, inhale. Notice your ribs expand out to the sides. Exhale through the mouth. Let everything deflate. Last one, inhale, big breath in. And exhale all the way. All right, you can relax your hands back to your lap and breathe normally from now on. We'll start off with some gentle neck stretching. So let's take your right ear down to your right shoulder, just tilting the head to the side. And relax, take a few breaths here. We never want to hold our breath in yoga. If you want a little deeper stretch, you can take your opposite hand and reach it out to the side. Maybe flip the palm up, flip it down, whatever feels good. Return to center with the neck, return the hand to the lap. Let's do the other side, left ear down to left shoulder. Option to just stay here, or you can reach the opposite hand out and deepen the stretch. And bring the head back to neutral, hand together at your lap. From here, hands on knees. We'll do some torso circles, and feel free to lean into those props. Hands could be on the floor too if you need a little bit more stability, but we'll lean forward and around and back, keeping your sit bones on the mat. These are just gentle, slow leans to find some movement through the lower back and the hips. And then let's go the opposite direction. And return to center. All right. From here, take the soles of your feet and place them together in what's called bound angle or butterfly pose. Now, if this is a little challenging, you're always welcome to lean back on the hands for support. If your knees are way up here and it's uncomfortable, you could prop the legs up on your pillows. And we'll find our butterfly stretch here, taking a few breaths, letting gravity pull the knees down. And if it feels right for you, let's bring the hands to the feet. Hold on, lean forward a little bit, and we'll do torso circles again, this time with the legs in our butterfly pose. So lean forward, around and back, holding on, and find some movement through the hips, through the lower back. And go the opposite direction. One more. And then return to center. Let's guide the knees up. Set your blocks or pillows out of the way. And then come to tabletop pose. Move your blanket out of the way as well. In our tabletop pose, we want to stack the joints. So think of bringing shoulders over wrists, knees underneath the hips here. And as we bear weight in yoga on our hands, spread out the fingers, evenly distribute the weight through your whole palm. You don't want to sit just back on your wrist. In our tabletop here, we'll do some cats and cows, moving through the spine and then moving through the hips as well. Starting off with our basic cow pose, lift the tailbone up to the ceiling, arch through the back, let the belly hang down. Gaze forward, pull the shoulders back. Inhale here. And then find cat pose. Tucking the tailbone, rounding through the back. Hands push into the mat. Tuck the chin into the chest and exhale all the way. Think of hugging the baby in, engaging the core just enough to feel nice and supported in the belly. And we'll inhale, returning to our cow pose. Exhale, round into cat. One more, inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. And return to neutral in your tabletop. From here, let's find some movement through the hips. Sinking down in some circles, bringing the hips out to the side. Either direction works because we'll do both. But find a little bit of movement, whatever feels good. You can twist through the spine here, looking over your shoulder to find a little side bend. Circle the hips. And if you went one direction, let's go the other way. Soft, gentle circles. And return to tabletop. Widen out your knees to the edges of the mat. Bring your feet together. Sit your hips back to your heels. We'll take a child's pose. So depending on how big the belly is, you may need to widen the legs even more so there's plenty of space. And draw the head and chest down towards the mat. Your arms could stay straight if that's a little hard on the shoulders. Bend the elbows, bend the arms, that's fine. Take a few slow breaths here in child's pose. You can do a little mental scan, see where your thoughts have been so far in class. If you've been thinking about things that aren't related to yoga in the present moment, set those thoughts aside. They'll be there waiting for you when you're done. But the next few minutes are still just for you. We want to just focus on now, on what's happening on your mat with you and your body. And then we can do a little body scan, going down, seeing how we feel. If there's anything that doesn't feel right, if there's anything that's aching or that's causing some issues, just make note of that and be careful with that as we continue our yoga. Inhale from here. We'll lift back onto hands, bring the knees in, and find a tabletop pose. Next, we'll need one of our props. We'll need our bolster or couch cushion. You'll want to lay it across your mat. We'll use it for a supported thread the needle. Feels really good, and it gives you some space for your belly. Thread the needle lifts the hips above the heart, so it's considered an inversion. As long as you don't feel like you can't breathe during it, it should be okay for you to do. It can even release some of the pressure felt on the pelvic floor and in the pelvis from your pregnancy. So find your bolster across. Hands can be on the bolster. If that doesn't feel right, you can place them either in front or behind, just wherever is comfortable. So we're in a modified tabletop here, and we'll widen the knees out again, feet together. Let's inhale and lift your left arm up towards the ceiling in a gentle twist through the back. Exhale, float that hand down, bring it through, and lower that left shoulder onto the bolster. Your head and neck can relax on it. This other hand can stay on the bolster for support. You can even push a little bit to twist through the shoulders. And the hips are stacked over the knees. If you don't like having your hips up, everything is shifted into your chest cavity and you really don't feel comfortable, you could lower the hips to heels and do it this way. You'll get the same twist and stretch through the upper body, but you won't be in an inversion. One more breath here. We'll inhale and come back up to your tabletop with the bolster, hips over knees, shoulders over wrists. We'll do the other side. Inhale and lift the right arm up in a gentle twist towards the ceiling. Exhale, bring that hand down under the other arm. Shoulder, head, and neck relax on your bolster. one more breath here. Inhale, lift back up. We'll slide our bolster out of the way and return to a normal tabletop, knees in line or parallel. And from here, step your feet back, find a full plank, hugging the belly, hugging the baby in. Then lift the hips, bend the knees, find downward facing dog. Your head can relax down between the arms, and you can pedal your feet, shifting your weight side to side, rolling through the ankles, the knees, the hips, finding any movement that feels good in your downward facing dog. Knees can bend as much as you want. If you don't quite have enough room because of your belly, you can always take a wider stance here, create lots of space. And then to come up out of our downward facing dog, we're going to do something a little different today. Let's bend your knees, walk your hands backwards towards your feet, end up at the back of the mat, wide stance, hands on thighs, guide yourself up to standing. All right, so now that we are standing at the back of the mat, let's go ahead and walk to the front. We'll do some gentle forward folds here with some props. I know in pregnancy, our hips get really stiff, our hamstrings get really tight. We might have some sciatica pain running down the back of the leg. So hopefully the next pose or two helps you out with those. So take a blanket or towel, lay it across the mat and roll it up. The taller it is, the deeper the stretch you'll get. So if it's a little too much for you, you can unroll it some. And then you'll want your block or pillow out in front. And we'll start off standing behind the blanket. Take a wide stance here and place the front half of each foot on the blanket. Your heels are still down on the floor. And wider stance so that you're nice and secure. You can have the knees bent a little bit if you feel off balance. From here, stand in your new version of mountain. Might feel a little different. Draw your awareness down to your feet. Notice the stretch you might already feel in your calves as your ankles are forced into a little bit of flexion here. Sink into your blanket. Don't be afraid of the props. They're there to work for you. And then when you're ready, we can inhale and reach the arms up overhead. This is a good opportunity to, again, practice breathing out through the sides of the ribs. If you've run out of room in the front due to the space of the baby. And then from here, exhale, hinge at the hips and fold forward. Your hands can be on thighs for support, or you can reach down for your blocks. Once you're in your position, you can relax the head and neck, let them hang between the arms. We'll take a few slow, deep breaths in our stretch here. If it's a little too intense, you can come out of it. You can bend the knees more or unroll the blanket a little bit. Otherwise, let's find some slow, steady breaths, maybe a little bit of movement side to side. Whatever feels good for you in the hips and legs. And when you're ready to come out of our forward fold, hands to thighs, bend the knees a bit, push yourself upright, and carefully step off the blanket. Good job. Let's roll out our ankles. We'll do that pose one more time, but this time we'll have a bolster behind us, and we'll stand in front of the blanket because we are going to come down to Malasana or garland pose. It's a deep squat. We want a little bit of support today. So stand in front of the blanket this time. Get your heels on the blanket, toes and balls of the feet still on your mat. Wider stance so you feel stable. Maybe bend the knees a bit. And center yourself. Draw your awareness down into your feet. Feel the weight Settle into the blanket, nice and supported. Inhale, reach the arms up, expand the ribs into the sides and the back. Exhale, fold forward one more time here, hinging at the hips. Hands for support on the legs or down onto your blocks or the floor. We'll take a few breaths here in this deep hamstring stretch. You may have noticed during your pregnancy that you have become more flexible. This is normal. It's due to the release of relaxin hormones. Your body is preparing to shift your hips around for the birth process. So as we stretch in yoga, it is possible to overstretch while pregnant. Instead of aiming for 10 out of 10 in your flexibility, I'd say hold back and do more like 7 out of 10. Release some tension, feel a stretch, but don't overdo it. So wherever you're at in your forward fold, let's lower the hips down. You can reach back to your bolster for support until your hips find it. And we'll come into a yogi squat, knees wide. Hold on if you need to sit up straight, or your hands can be behind you. This should be pretty supported from our props. We're not doing much in our core. We're not supporting our weight with much of our own strength. Once you're here, you can do a little windshield wiper side to side motion with the knees. And take a few breaths. If you're lean back like me, let's push ourselves. Lean forward just a bit, get your feet closer. Lift the seat off the bolster if it's comfortable for you and your hips. Everyone's body is different. Everyone's at different points in their pregnancy. So you could stay back where we were, or you can lean forward in a deeper squat, letting your heel sink into the blanket. And bring the hands to the front, pushing your knees out a little wider with those elbows. One more deep breath. And then hands come down to the floor or your pillows. Inhale, lift the hips up. Hands walk up to the thighs and we'll rise up to standing. Carefully step off your props, roll out those ankles, and slide everything out of your way for the next process here, the next pose. All right, find your mountain at the front of the mat. Inhale, reach the arms up, expand the lungs to the sides. Exhale, fold forward, bending the knees, hinging at the hips. Once your hands are down on the mat, step your right foot back. Pivot the feet, walk your hands around, take a wide-legged forward fold. If the ground's too far away, you can grab a pillow or a block, place that under the hands, and widen out the feet until you find a comfortable pose here, letting the head and neck hang down. Take a few breaths and feel free to find a little bit of movement side to side through the hips, through the legs. Rocking forward, rocking back, anything that feels good. And then wiggle walk the feet in about halfway, so a narrower stance, but a little wider than normal mountain. Hands on thighs, bend the knees. Let's rise up to standing. Reach the arms up overhead for star pose. So think of making a big X through the body. Toes point out. Lower down to goddess pose. Goddess pose is a strong pose, active in the hips. Arms could be out here, or you could cradle your belly in your goddess pose. Feel that connection with baby. We'll inhale, lift back up. Exhale, find goddess again. And feel free to find a little bit of movement, rocking side to side, making some hip circles. Whatever feels good for you and your body. And inhale, straighten the legs, reach up overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Bring your props out of the way, pivot the feet, and step your front foot back. Find a plank. We'll lift the hips and come into downward facing dog again, pedaling out the feet, maybe having a wider stance. Lots of space. And when you're ready, bend the knees, lower down to tabletop. Swivel the legs around. And we'll find a seat here as we set up our props for the remainder of class. We are going to create a little ramp, is what I call it, or an incline. If you have blocks, you can place them down in an L shape like this, or kind of stacked on top. If you're using pillows, you can stack them. And then take your bolster, and we'll lay the bolster over the pillows or blocks. Just enough that you'll be laying at an incline instead of flat on your back. So it doesn't matter how high it is as long as it's steady. And from here you can sit with your back right up against the bolster. Carefully guide yourself down until you feel nice and supported. And we'll bend the knees, bring the feet flat on the mat. One of our last stretches today will be pigeon pose, but we're doing a reclined pigeon. Pigeon is really good for sciatic pain and stretching through the hips, the piriformis. But having one leg forward and one leg back like we normally do on the floor might be a little too much for our hips, especially if we have that extra flexibility from all those pregnancy hormones. So doing it in a reclined position like this keeps our pelvis facing the same way instead of one twisting forward and one twisting back. It's a little more gentle. So let's take the right ankle, cross it over the thigh. Plenty of options here to make it as gentle or as intense as you want it to be. So starting with gentle, you could just gently push that right knee further away, flex in the ankle and relax. And this could be your reclined pigeon. If you want a deeper stretch, you could pull that left thigh in towards your body. You could just guide this right leg in towards the body. Or if none of that quite feels right, you could sit up on your hands instead of the recline and bring your torso towards the legs. Lots of options. Figure out what feels right for you. For your belly size, our bellies kind of get in the way in some poses, so work around it. And if you want to find some movement, the legs could gently rock side to side, and you'll notice, certain angles hit a sore spot or a tight spot a little differently, and then you can hang out there, let the stretch release as you relax, and then find more movement, maybe find a different tight spot. When you're ready to switch sides, we'll unwind, bring that right foot to the floor, left ankle crosses over. Again, you have options here to lay back on your incline or to be propped up on hands. You could push that left knee away, and this could be enough. Or you could bring one leg towards the chest or both legs towards the chest. Whatever feels right. So find your reclined pigeon on this side. Option for gentle movements side to side. And we'll take a few more breaths. When you're ready, let's unwind the legs and set up for our final pose, our Shavasana or corpse pose. Now we are already at an incline, very comfortable, relaxed position. If you want to stay here, that's what I would encourage you to try. If you've never been in this position before for corpse pose and Shavasana, it's mostly much more comfortable than being flat on your back or on your side on the ground. So from here, the legs can do whatever we want. We could keep them bent. One option that feels nice is to walk the feet out a bit, let the knees fall inward. This opens up the sacrum a little bit. So if you've had some pain around your tailbone, the sacrum, the lower back, this could create some space and ease into some opening. If this is uncomfortable, you could do the opposite. You could find that butterfly stretch again, bringing the feet together and the knees out, maybe propping pillows under the knees. Or you could just stretch your legs out and relax the arms. So wherever you're at, let's get cozy and comfortable. Shavasana is all about being the least distracted as we can be and the most comfortable as we can be. And that's often really hard for us to find as we go further through our pregnancy. So hopefully you can find a position that will be comfortable enough for a few minutes of peace for you. Once you're there, I invite you to wrap your arms around your belly, cradle the baby, gently close your eyes. Soften any facial muscles that are still tense, the eyes, the jaw. Maybe open the mouth, release the tongue from the roof of the mouth. Give yourself a little swallow. And then notice your shoulders. If they feel tense, roll them around and relax them. Same with the legs. If your legs are tense, find a little bit of movement and then relax them into their final position. And we'll do a little meditation today during our corpse pose. Imagine a ball of bright golden light starting in the center of your chest, right at your heart. And that ball of light is warm, sparkly, and full of peace, a feeling of love and contentment. That love and contentment starts with yourself. As you lay here, focusing on that ball of light, feel it expand and get larger and larger, growing as you send love and caring and happiness into it. And as that ball of light grows, it now encompasses your upper body. It grows even more and begins to encompass your belly and baby. And you notice there's now a second source of warm light coming from your belly, communing with the ball of light from your chest. And this is your baby sending back all the love, all the contentment, all the warm, cozy feelings that you've sent it. And those two balls of light together continue to grow larger and larger until they now encase your entire body, your props, your yoga mat, in this warm sphere of protection and light and love. Give yourself a few peaceful breaths in your globe of light and love with just you and baby, sending that warm, loving feeling back and forth with each other. Bring the corners of your lips up into a gentle smile here. And we'll take one more final breath as we allow our glowing orb of light to dissipate and slowly sink back into our bodies, knowing that it's always there, ready and waiting for us when we want to pull it out and reconnect. From here, let's begin to gently wake back up and draw your awareness back to the present moment. Maybe finding some small movements in the fingers and wrists, the toes and ankles. You can take a few deeper breaths. Maybe even open the eyes and look around, reaching the arms out for a stretch, bending the knees, rocking them side to side. And when you're ready, hands can come to the floor to help push yourself away from your bolster and guide you to an upright, easy seat. Sitting tall here, hands on your heart or on your belly. I want to thank you for joining me today for our prenatal yoga class. I'll see you next time.